Yay, waiting so patiently. But here we are. And we're gonna cook today. So I think we got this. I do have two cams set up so we can see what's going on over here. You can obviously tell it's a super amazing camera. But since there's nothing going on there, we'll start here and I'll explain what I'm cooking today. I am a lazy cook. Forks, are you a lazy cook? Like me? So, spaghetti. Super easy, super cheap. Really good go-to, especially if you're cooking for one or even a family and you're trying to cook on a budget. So this, like, I get Classico because I like the taste and I can kind of fix it up a little better. But I think it's $1.50 per jar. It says it serves 5 people. I don't do a ton of sauce on my pasta. Oh, wait till we start getting cooking. Then you're going to be real hungry. I've been thinking about this all day. And then a box of spaghetti was 80 cents, $1. You can typically get it pretty cheap. This says 8 servings, so yeah. I tend to like a little more pasta and less sauce. There are ways to get the sauce to go a little further if you're being lazy. Otherwise, you can always do like 2 boxes of pasta and 3 things of sauce. But that's if you're feeding an army. When you start adding meat, because today we're going to do meatballs, you want to make sure it's going to be able to be eaten like 3 to 5 days. Otherwise, you have to freeze it. And to me, spaghetti doesn't freeze very well. So it's something I try and do within that time frame. Without meat, you can normally stretch it to 7 days. So it's kind of whatever you want to do. But we're not only doing that, we're also going to bake. We're making cupcakes. So when I cook, since that's an art, I wing it. Baking is a science, so you can't wing it. So I had to kind of plan what I'm doing today. And since I'm going to start the meatballs in the oven, I don't want to have to take those out halfway through baking. So I'm going to finish the meatballs on the stove. So let's get started because I'm getting hungry having thought about this all day. First up, bacon sheet. Need that for the meatballs. And I just got the frozen meatballs. I think they were $2 or $3. And then I'm lazy. I don't want to clean up, so I use aluminum foil because it's super cheap. Meatballs typically don't stick. If you feel like you need to, you can always spray them down. I just use pan cooking spray. That's what I'll use for most of the stuff. I'll see if I put the food back in the right spot. So let's see. This says 7 servings, so it's about equal. That one of these would equal one of these. And then it's like 1.5 of the sauce, which they tend to do on purpose. This has like a bunch of different recipes on it. Pre-made meatballs. You can do these in a crock pot. You can do them in the microwave. You can do them in the oven. Now you can see, ooh, delicious frozen meatballs. Just make sure they're spread out. Since I'm lazy, I throw things in while they're cooking or while it's heating up. So I have a convection oven. I'm going to do convection baking. All of this goes for $3.50. So as it's heating up, we'll start defrosting these. And that says like 15 to 20 minutes in the oven. But again, I'm also going to finish them on the stovetop. So I'm going to go right into the cupcakes. Super simple recipe. But there are ways to make this even better. So this even gives you options for substitutions. Like instead of eggs, you can use yogurt. Instead of oil, you can do unsweetened applesauce. If you want a more dense cake, you can use less eggs. If you want it super fluffy, you add more pear, more egg whites. With this, it's just cake mix, water, oil, eggs in a bowl for 2 minutes. Don't need the box anyway. And it's not that difficult to make cupcakes from scratch. It's just, if you want to be lazy, go for it. Especially if you can find the stuff on sale. Do it. But the way you can fancy this up is by changing water. And by adding some other little things. So instead of water, I'm adding soda. I have a pomegranate lemonade. So yes, Kitty is always underfoot. Always underfoot. Especially in the kitchen. When using fancy soda, make sure you have your handy dandy bottle opener. Yeah, this says 1 cup of water. Since baking is a science, you want to follow the recipe as close as possible. So you just measure out 1. But before I add that in, since the oil always sticks, I put the oil in with the water, and that way it doesn't stick. So it's half a cup of oil. You can use whatever, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, whatever. Measure out a half cup. Whatever you like, they all have slightly different flavors. You can use sunflower oil, safflower oil. You can see now it's sitting on top and it won't mix. So that's going to get the oil right out, and it's not going to stick as much as you normally get. See? Just a little bit right there. And I'm adding some marmalade. I have some blackberry preserves. Just adds an extra flavor. All this is going to up the sugar content, so you have to watch for that. But since I have the soda, I can always add more water if the marmalade. The amount I'm adding isn't very much, so it's not going to mess with the mix. It's a 1 ounce. But it just gives an extra flavor, so you're not doing your regular base cake mix. The yellow cake mix is good. It's just, if you want to make it a little better, just use what you have. If you have some jam that's getting old, you have, I don't know, pie, leftover pie filling. Throw that in there. And then eggs. These are easy. They don't call you to separate the eggs from the yolks from the whites, so you just loop right in. If you're worried about shells, then yeah, always do it in something separate. I'll do it in the mixing cup, so that way I don't have, in the measuring cup. That way I don't have to worry about dirtying anything extra. And again, I'm a lazy cook. But as you're cooking, wash your hands. We don't like cross-contamination here. And whisk. If you have a hand mixer, use a hand mixer. If you have a KitchenAid, use a KitchenAid. This just says beat it together for about 2 minutes on medium. If you want to do it all together in one, like I am, use a whisk. My dad showed me when I was younger, you can use a fork when like whisking pancakes, just something you want to get the air in there at about a medium speed. You want to break up the big clumps because you don't want it too mushy. You don't want it overbeaten because then it's just not going to sit right. You'll get some weird looking cupcakes or cake. Right? Less dishes is the best. Normally when I'm cooking, I try and just use one. Today I'm actually using a few, but I don't know. Oh, the color on this is way off. That looks horrible. It's actually a pretty pink color. Let me see if I can get it on the other camera without tipping it over too much. So yeah, it's kind of a pretty pink. And it'll lighten up as it cooks because, of course, air. You can see it thickens up as it sits. How's it going, Hot Mary? My oven's at about 300 degrees. So it's taking about what I expected. It should be about halfway for me getting the meatballs warmed up. Because they're pre-cooked, so you just want them fully warmed through so you don't pass along any diseases or anything. And there's different types of whisks, so just use what's on hand. There's also a black whisk that I could use, like this. This is another handy one. It's nicer for eggs if you're trying to get more fluffiness in them. But for your standard whisk, I just like this one. And it seems about right. You don't want it to be too runny, you don't want it to be too thick. And the smell is super weird because I have something super fruity and sugary while those Italian meatballs are cooking. I don't know. Like, I'm hungry, my stomach's all excited. There it is. Alright. So there's that. And I am going to do half cupcakes and half cake. So the box says it's like 19 minutes for 24 cupcakes and 23 minutes, 29 minutes for a 9-inch round. So we'll just kind of test it along the way, especially when you're using a convection oven. It's a little different than what you do there. And then my dishware is automatically non-stick, but I still spray it down just to be safe, because I don't want to scrub up any of those stuck bits. So it's a good generous coat. For the cupcakes I have liners, because we can. And then the recipe on this says fill them about halfway. Give or take. More, it tends to kind of bubble over and they can merge together. So if you like the cupcake tops or muffin tops, then you'll fill it more. And if you don't like those, then less. I do like my convection oven for baking. But if you're used to not using it and you already know where your hot spots are, then you're fine. It's just kind of nice to not have to go through and adjust things for the hot spot. And a spoon in the batter. And it says about halfway. Start over here so you can see. With this way, these will cook while we're making dinner, they'll cool while I eat, and then we can frost and call it a day. A little more for halfway. It's about a spoon and a half with this. If you have like a melon baller or an ice cream scoop or something like that, it's a little easier to get exact measurements. I don't really care about being perfect. I just want it to taste good and not be too much effort. Because we have lives. We have other stuff to do. There. So those are about halfway. Put the rest in. And that way I can decide later if I want to have a piece of cake or if I want to have a cupcake. And I don't know about you guys. I know you're not supposed to eat raw batter, but it's so good. And plus, how are you supposed to toast it? I wish I could mail this to the followers because I can't eat all this. And this is a really good batter. I tend to like the cake to be way sweeter and to have less sweet in my frosting. So if you're like me, this is really good. If you like everything to be super sweet, then well, you're in luck because that's what we're doing today. Alright. I have a fancy handy dandy cooling rack so that I don't burn my fingers. And again, those meatballs are about halfway. And as you can see, so they're warming through. We'll finish them off in the sauce. And that way they also pick up more of the flavor. Then we'll get these in. And we'll set that timer at 19 for the cupcake. And get started on our pasta. Yeah, the batter is badder than usual. Nice pun. Say hello, kitty. You're on camera. You're such a trash can, huh? Go see her. Useless. Useless kitty. Say hi. Say hi. She doesn't know what's going on. Not at all. So I'm just getting water for the pasta. It's super exciting stuff. I know. Get that started. Oh, let me wipe that up first. I'm a messy cook. That's why I like less dishes. Wash my hands because I touched a cat. Alright, so my stove has a turbo boil. I love this burner because it boils my water super fast. Whenever you're working with pasta, salt the water. Salt the water. Always salt the water. If you think you've used too much salt, use a little more. Because the pasta's going to soak all that up. It's also going to make it boil faster. It's going to be delicious and amazing and everything you could ever want or hope for in food. Got jam on my phone. And then while that's starting, because that's going to take 15-20 minutes, we'll get our sauce going. Yeah, we'll use this one today because we're doing meatballs. So again, if you like more sauce, do more sauce. If you are like me and don't like a lot of sauce, don't do a lot of sauce. But if you're lazy, just buy the sauce. It's like $1. Alright, throw that in. Now, here's the fun part. Put that on medium. You can eat it just as it is. It's fine. Do what you want. I like to spice it myself. And that's where the fun comes in. So you can throw whatever you want in there. I like to mix my Italian and Mexican type spices. So, chili powder. Sea spices, especially if they're red, tend to be spicy and hot. If you don't like spicy and hot things, stay away from them. You do like them. That's not always true. Because there's yellow curry, which is also spicy. Garlic. All the garlic. I love my garlic. There's no such thing as too much garlic. Same with onion. Throw in some onion powder. If you have the actual stuff in your refrigerator, go with that. Fresh is always better. You don't need as much. A little goes a long way. Let's see. Yeah, let's do a little cayenne today. And what else do we have? No, I don't think we want cinnamon or ginger. I have some dill. Nah. We'll start with that and then give that a stir. So we want that to incorporate in everything else. The spaghetti is also nice because you can hide vegetables in there, so if you're trying to cook for people who don't like vegetables. I think I have some carrots hiding in my fridge, so I'll probably throw some carrots in there because I can. What else do I have? Got a little onion too. Okay. I like my onions to still be a little crunchy. So if you like them to be super soft, cook those first in some oil, then add the sauce. I'm just going to throw some onion in there. Call it good. Carrots. If you like carrots, you can chop them. If there are people who don't really like carrots, shred them. You can barely notice that they're in there. I'll just do a few baby carrots and chop those up, I guess. Yeah, I don't know where I put my grater. I'll go over like chopping stuff and more of that later. This is just a really easy, something you can throw together. This is my favorite knife. Yes, it's overkill, especially for some baby carrots, but it's so fun. Look at this thing. I love this knife. Not a ton, but you can see some carrots, it's something. Some veggies in there, a little freshness. If you don't have it, it's fine. The food's going to be great without it. If you do have it and you want to use it, go for it. That's what it's there for. Mix all this in. And then especially with COVID, if you're taste testing stuff and you might share it, don't put your hands in the food. Use disposable spoons or things you can wash. So the spices aren't fully incorporated, but you can always use more garlic and more onion. I know the onion's going to cook in, so that's fine. Well, let's do, I like a little more heat than that. So we'll do some more chili and cayenne. And garlic. Because who doesn't like garlic? If you don't like garlic, you're in the wrong street. Yeah, that looks good. Doesn't that look delicious? I salt and pepper afterwards because there's a lot of salt in the water. And people like different salt and pepper levels. You could put red pepper in here. I think that's good. Alright, so the water's boiling. Throw in our spaghetti. Yeah, you just start adding things to the garlic. It's not really adding garlic to things anymore. If you have a deep pot, just dump it in. If you don't, you can either break it in half or you have to watch it and then try and get it all. Pardon. Ooh, some pepper snuck in. You want to make sure you keep stirring this so that you cook the pasta all at the same level. Oh my goodness. Cayenne in the nose, I swear. There. You don't want to leave some of the pasta sticking out while some is still cooking because then it's not going to cook evenly. Stopped it. Alright. You could leave it boiling, but over the years I've learned that makes my pot boil over and then I have to work and scrub on all this, so I turn it down to a medium so it more simmers. And that way I can always cook it longer or shorter. I have a little more control if you cook it slower. So at this point you can throw the meatballs back in, let those incorporate and finish cooking. And since you don't want the sauce to cook down too much, I'm going to just give it a stir. Again, I'm so messy when I cook. And then, because this is going to simmer for a bit, I'm going to take a ladle of pasta water and let that incorporate. And that just extends the sauce a little further, since they don't quite give you the full 8 servings. Put a lid, let that cook, turn it down, and we wait till the pasta's ready. See? It's so hard. And when that does, it's a good time to clean up because you already saw I'm making a huge mess. Huge mess. So what are your guys' favorite go-to easy meals? Ooh, cookies. RJ, are you gonna bring me some cookies if I bring you some cupcakes? Cookies sound better. Now that I'm making cupcakes, cookies sound better. Have a swig of soda, cause I can. See, salmon and rice is good. There are a lot of good things you can do with rice. Like, as long as you can kind of perfect rice or pasta, then the rest is just gravy. Literally. Like, when you're first learning to cook, perfect one thing and work from there. Because you can always kind of, I don't know, shock and amaze people with one really good thing. You might not know how to cook anything else. Ooh, Rice Krispie treats. See, if I was doing that, I feel like I would be 50 pounds heavier. I try not to bake if it's only me. You don't want the pasta to stick, so you make sure you keep stirring that all the time. Again, if it's on a much higher where it's like super boiling and boiling over, I feel like I have to stir the whole time. Ruffles potato chips. In which part? The Rice Krispie treats or cookies? Where do you put potato chips? That seems weird. I do see how, like, having that salt element could be really good. Peanuts and pretzels too. Now I kind of want to try making Rice Krispie treats, but instead of Rice Krispies, you just use Ruffles. Because I love a good salty snack. Ooh, pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. Javier, I might have to get that recipe from you because I have some pumpkin that I need to break down, and that sounds really good. I think I even have chocolate chips. Yeah. I have the many. Sally's baking addiction. I'll have to take a look. So yeah, when I'm cooking, I just kind of go on instinct and trial and error. So like I can tell from the spoon if the pasta's ready or not because I've cooked so much pasta. And with my sauces, taste is mostly through your smell. So I go more by how the sauce smells as it's cooking. When it's covered, it's harder to do, but I want to make sure that the meat is fully cooked so I don't get myself sick. But if it smells good, then it's probably going to taste good. And you can always add more spices at the end. It's just better if you can incorporate it earlier. But I also like doing it this way because then 2 days later, as I'm eating the same thing, it actually holds the spices even more. And it tastes even better. The gift that keeps on giving. So there's really no Rice Krispies in it. It's just vanilla, pretzels, peanuts, Ruffles potato chips. That sounds so expensive, but probably really good. And super salty. Oh man. Yeah, I might have to try that, because especially if you throw chocolate in with that much salt, sounds like it'd be a treat on a regular basis, like every 30 days or so. So good together. I know when people are starting to cook pasta, they always say, oh, take a piece out, throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. You do not understand how many times I've burned myself trying to do that. Just, if it's a little off, it's fine. Just eat it. It's good. It still goes in the same plate. The pasta's almost ready, but the cupcakes and cake are about ready to come out. So I'm going to wait those 30 seconds and then I'll drain the pasta. I don't have any toothpicks. This should be interesting. And turn the pasta down a little bit since it's almost ready. I'm just going to cook a little extra. There's my timer. Use a hot mitt so you don't burn yourself or the cat. Let me see. I'm just going to use plastic. That's fine, right? Yeah, they're still a little mushy, so I'm going to put them in for 4 more minutes. They're getting there. They're not quite golden though. Now 3 hours, 3 minutes. Alright, so then turn that one off. And this, if you have a strainer, use it. If you don't, you can use a large plate. If you do that, wear your hot mitt. Please and thank you. Don't burn yourself. And you don't even have to drain it all the way. Like, you can also leave a little in there. And that way when you mix in the sauce, like, it's going to keep incorporating. And it's going to give you more liquid to the sauce, especially if you plan on keeping it for a few days and not eating it all right away. Like me, I can't eat 8 servings in a sitting. That sounds terrible and super expensive. That looks all nice and bubbly. So I turned that off because that's definitely cooked through. It's starting to stick on the bottom. Which means I had it a little too hot, but that means it's definitely cooked. My onions aren't completely translucent, so they're still going to have a little crunch to them the way I like it. If you don't like it that way, then cook your onions longer. Or don't add the onions. Right? When this all comes together, it's going to be delicious. So then from here, it's up to you. I just mix it all together because that's what I like to do. Or you can serve it separately, so you dish up the pasta and then you dish up the meatballs. I'm only cooking for myself, so we're just going to throw it all right in there. Make sure you get all that goodness. Even the stuck on bits because that's super caramelized. Caramelized is good, burnt is bad. If it's completely blackened, that's burned and that's bad. If it's a little brown, that's caramelized and that's still fine. And we call that good. Yes, timer. I will check them. Give that a nice stir. And again, it doesn't look like a lot of sauce. For me, this is right, but for other people, it's not. It costs more if you add more. But you can also add like some cream if you want it. You can add more of the pasta water if you reserved some. Add just more sauce. But we still have to add the cheese element, so don't worry. It's not quite done. But let's check our cupcakes. Yeah, that looks better. Much better. I think they still need a little longer. I don't know if you can tell, but that one's still a little glossy. We'll give that a few more minutes. And while that cooks, that gives me time. I know, cheese, it's the best part. So you can always add the cheese in. If I end up freezing it, I don't like having the cheese in there, so I put the cheese on top. Sometimes I'll do Mexican cheese, sometimes I'll do Parmesan cheese. You can also do American cheese. Whatever you have, just go for it. So you have your big old plate, your big old scoop of spaghetti. I need a spaghetti ladle, because I didn't get very much with that one. But if you're like me and have pets in the house, then you have to also kind of like clean up immediately before you can eat. Otherwise the pet will stick their face in the food. Even spaghetti. My cat is a trash panda, I swear. Doesn't that look super healthy and delicious? Here, we'll put a couple of meatballs on top. Look, it's such a balanced meal. I put veggies in it. It counts. And I do happen to have Parmesan today. So we'll put some grated Parmesan on. If you have it, cool. If you don't, whatever. Parmesan. Grab a fork and actually try this. See if I can get a bite before my cat does. Spaghetti. Yeah, that's hot. That's good stuff. Alright, who wants dinner? It's served. Come on over. Oh, that was hot. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. That was really good, but that was really hot. Okay, we're good. We're fine. I haven't burned off all my taste buds. Alright. So I'm just getting those onto my cooling racks. Because the cupcakes are ready, they're going to have to cool a bit before we can do anything with them. The cake, obviously being larger, is going to have to cook a bit longer. Look at that, 5 more minutes. And in the meantime, can eat. Because I'm procrastinating on cleaning. Am I the only one that does that? It's like, I'll just eat over the area I have to clean so that I don't forget I have to clean it. But so I also don't have to clean it right now. This was a good call, Sporks. By the way, everyone needs to cheer for Sporks because he was my first donation. And so, because of that donation, we kind of decided what today's stream was going to be. Which is cooking. But yay, donation! Because Sporks is the coolest. We're all the coolest, but you know. Don't hide. If I was cooler, I'd have all these like add-on things and I could cheer and like do cool stuff to call you out for donating, but I haven't figured that out. I'm not tech savvy or anything. My cat can smell the cheese. She's looking at me like I'm the worst parent ever for not sharing the cheese. If that makes me the worst pet owner ever, I'm okay with that. I don't need to share my cheese. She got a McDonald's burger earlier. She does not need more cheese. She is a spoiled princess. The cayenne is really good in this. And the chili. I like the cayenne. That's a really good cheese. Makes my mouth tingle. Yum. Alright, so the next part is packing all this up, because, again, I can't eat this entire pot in a sitting, and I'm not even going to try. I've got about 2 minutes to check on the cake, and then I can play some games while all this cools, because don't frost while it's hot, obviously. That doesn't work. So let me grab containers. I try and do containers about the size of 2 cups worth, because I know for me that's about 2 servings. It helps me with portion control for myself. If you're doing like for a family and you want to reheat it, then yeah, just put it all together, it's fine. if you're going to reheat it all at once. Just you don't want to keep reheating the same thing over and over, because that's going to make it taste worse. When I put it in the freezer, I actually try and stick with about 8 ounces or 1 cup, because then it reheats more evenly in the microwave. If you're doing stovetop stuff, then it's not as big of a deal. But again, we're talking about lazy cooking. There's more meatballs in this one, because they're delicious. Yes, Cake, I hear you. When you're baking, if you pull it out a little early, it's not the worst. Like, you don't want to pull it out 10 minutes early. But if it's 30 seconds early or a little late, like, it's going to keep cooking, so you have to plan for that. But at the same time, like, it's not going to change things too dramatically if it's a minute or two off. When you start getting at higher temperatures, like 350 isn't much. But when you start cooking at like 450, 500, then that extra minute could mean burnt versus edible. And that's something to watch out. But there are ways to even do this in a crock pot if you want to be extra lazy and have that extra layer. Not all jiggly, so that's a good sign. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. It seems like it's cooked through, but it's still a little jiggly in the middle. I'm doing some of my smaller serving containers as well. Sometimes I just want a snack. Instead of having pasta and meatballs be the main thing I'm eating, just have it be like a little side. And then this, if I want to just have like a meatball sub, it's kind of nice to have the meatballs separate. Since they're cooked through and they're spiced and they're all delicious. But there, cooked, baked, kind of fed, all within an hour. And this was probably, I don't know, $6 for everything. Even with the carrots and the onion, and that stuff was left over from other things. So it's a good budget-friendly thing. You can kind of make your own. It's not hard to make your own tomato sauce, of course not, but it takes more time and effort. You can see all my stuff. Because I'm making a mess. I'm so messy. So good. It's much more golden brown than it shows. Alright, so there's that, and then I'm going to show you another hack for when you're super unsmart and grab the rack. And you burn yourself. So you go into the kitchen and find something. A lot of times they say mustard, but you don't want spicy brown. I have a crap ton of ranch, so we'll use ranch today. So if you burn yourself, I don't even think you can see. It's just a little on the end right there. Come on, camera. Let me try this one. Nope. But I did touch the rack, and it was 350 degrees. Burn cream always would slide off. It was too liquidy. You don't want to run it under cold water because that's going to blister it. So if you put something thicker like ranch, mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, that's going to continually cool it so that as it pulls the heat from the lower layers up, you don't get those blisters or the marks. And it looks silly, but if you know me, you've definitely seen me walking around, especially when I worked at the movie theater, with mustard all over myself. They're like, what, did you get in a fight with the mustard? And it's like, no, I burned myself on the popcorn popper. So that's an easy little hack. And then afterwards you can put like aloe vera. I actually have an aloe plant, so I'll do that. Put it with Band-Aid, vitamin E, some sort of gel. But let that cool. You can pack up with the other hand, thankfully. The joys of being ambidextrous. Well, there. Look at that. Look at all this food we've got going. A huge stack. That's still hot, so don't want to put it on that one. Mustard will make me too delicious? I don't know. The ranch might be more up our neck of the woods since Midwestern and ranch. Then I want these to cool a little bit before I put them in my refrigerator because the other food in there, I don't want it to warm that up. The rest of this is cooling. Kitty's not going to get into that. So let's go play some games. How's that sound? I'll eat and play some Among Us. There. See, and it's all cleaned up. All better. And it didn't sting when I put my tongue on it, so the bird's not very deep. I barely touched it. But I'm going to switch over to the computer so we can play Among Us. So hang out, and I will be back shortly.